Okay, let's start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Metal3 Community meeting. Um, Today is 20th of October 2021. And just a small reminder before we start the meeting that this call is recording and is recorded and will be uploaded into the YouTube channel of the project. Uh, Please add your name into the attendee list. And also, if you have anything that you want to discuss, please add to the agenda. Um, let's start with the introduction round if we have anyone new in the call. But I can see in the attendee list that we don't have anyone new. So let's jump to the first item from Feroz, asking for review the future goal list in the annual report before we submit it to the Cncf. Please, Feroz.
Yep. Hi. So the deadline is coming close. It was 10th of October. I added some notes on the document, and I saw other folks also adding answering some questions. Thanks for that. I think it's more or less ready. We just need to review the goals and then the things that happened during the last year in mostly in BMO and Captain's repo maybe. So these are like two big questions. Maybe we just need to review, and then like if it looks good, then I would go ahead with opening PR in Cncf talk with the same content. So we were planning to first check the list of the goals, maybe, so we could go through each and every item there, see if it makes sense, and then maybe come back to this one if okay. Can you maybe scroll down a little bit, now, please? So this one, yeah. So what are the current goals of the project? For example, are you working on major features? Are you concentrating adoption or documentation? I saw some of the things. I think it was probably Zane who added like the first couple of items, and we just discussed a little bit in the last community meeting. But then I added also a number 4, which is releasing process for BMO. I think we also discussed last time that about the freezing of the CRD, like this, like goal number 1, for example, and this is somehow related to that, I think. So I hope there will be some releasing process once the freezing starts, and this could be maybe also added. Step number 5 is, goal number 5 is like splitting the BMH CRD into 2. This is actually originating from one of the GitHub issues I had, and I've been thinking about a possible workaround, which is the BMH status field is getting too big when you have quite a lot of hardware on your node, like details. For example, you have many disks or network interface cards and so on. And we had a problem when pivoting, because when we're pivoting to the target cluster, all the status information is going to the annotation, which is sometimes exceeding what is allowed, which is like 200 megabytes, something like that, more or less. So, and I went through all the past discussions on the GitHub, and then realized that the best would be to split it to have new CRD. And I would be really interested to work on that, actually. So and just wanted to check with others if you think that would make sense to add it here or not. Then number 6, automatic configuration of the network. This is currently progressing proposal. I think it is very close to be finalized. So I definitely think that it makes sense to add it here. Custom agent image controller. although the proposal has been merged and then the PR of the implementation is ready for review, so it is still something that is going in. So I think it also makes sense to add it here. Improve the end user documentation, which we're lacking a lot, unfortunately. And as said, I've been I've been planning to do it for age to add a really nice documentation. We've even added kind of the book structure to the Metal3, but the actual content is missing. So I hope and that in the future soon that I will actually do something on this that will help a lot, because I see from quite often that people are asking the same questions on Slack, and that's probably because we haven't documented things pretty well. So that's more or less what I added. Capm3 v1 beta 1 migration. I think it's for good. Yeah. So this is, you probably know that we're planning to migrate to beta. So the decision was that it's okay to use beta APIs, I think, but still and use the beta APIs of the cluster API. Because even though we're using beta, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like production ready, even though people are already using it in production. But at least when we're releasing, we're not going to put like bold text saying that the like production ready APIs like cluster API edit, for example. Step number, sorry, again, goal number 10. I'm not sure about this. I think it was Nam, maybe you added it.
I've added it, Fergus.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you do you mean in general, like to improve the E2E like we have in Capm3 and expand it into BMO as well, or?
Yeah, well, I'm also preparing a proposal in one of the next meeting. My idea was to find a way to be able to deploy end-to-end tests for all the repositories, also in particular also BMO, in an easier way, and that could be easy to maintain and easy to read. So that could also be possible whenever we create a new proposal in the Metal3 docs, when we define the section for the test to be implemented, also to have a quick way to implement effectively them in the for the required parts of the Metal3 repos.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that makes sense to me. So this is, and I didn't mention about 1 to 3, assuming that you already read it. The first one, maybe I'll just repeat it, like the freezing of the BMH as we quickly discussed last time. Then adding support for vendor-specific framework configuration. I'm not sure who is working on that. And then the third one is establishing from a security reporting process. This is this has been discussed a couple of times in the community meetings as well. And I think we have also included this in the next question, which is how can Cncf help us to achieve our upcoming goals? So maybe they could help us with either suggesting or setting up some sort of like system or mechanism that would help us to sort out this security related issues in the project. So this is more or less the list that we have. And so if you have questions or comments or objections or maybe additions, please go ahead.
Yeah, so the only thing I'd add here is that, like, we know there's going to be another review in a year in which they're going to look at whether we achieve these goals. So we probably should limit ourselves to things we're pretty confident of achieving in the next year.
Yes, exactly. I actually went through some other projects that had the same annual review report that for projects, for example, that entered the sandbox before us. And it's exactly the same, that once you list the things, you need to make sure that you try your best to achieve them. So yeah, in that sense, it makes sense that we limit to the things that we can do early.
So until the next review from Cncf, we need to finish like all of these goals, right? If I understand right.
I mean, yeah, since this is our goals, like we want to achieve in the next year, let's say, then we kind of should try to achieve them.
I'm worried about putting automatic configuration of the network on that list, just because we're still not sure about what the shape of that is. And I know there's a prototype for the current thing that obviously we've all seen the demos of, but I think the multi-tenancy story for that just hasn't fully been worked out yet. And to my mind, like, that's kind of the only reason to be doing automatic configuration of the network, because if you're not trying to shuffle hosts around between tenants, then you can just have your network configured statically. So I'm reluctant to put that on a list of goals that we're going to be measured against next year. Like, we should totally still pursue it, but I don't know what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, why not? I think we anyways have like already like quite a good list of items. I would be also okay to not include it if we're not so confident. So,
yeah. Would it be worth dividing this list into a list of new features that we're hoping to get in? Like,
yeah,
just looking through number 2, number 5, 7 are all features, and then the rest are kind of process, documentation, etc., improvements.
Yes.
Yeah, that might be easier to read for when we submit the thing. I know people just put stuff in whatever order here, which is fine, but including me.
Yeah, makes sense. I have a question about the releasing process. Do you have anything specific in mind to have a regular release cycle, or just starting the process when required?
I don't think we really discussed that. We kind of touched on it last week, talking about excuse me, the CAPN 3, where the release process so far has been tied to the cluster API versions, cluster API versions. But now that's gone beta, it may not make sense to tie it so much to that anymore. I think potentially a good model would be to do a release in line with the Kubernetes release cycle. So once per Kubernetes release, we, bump all the library dependencies to the latest controller runtime or whatever and do a release. That would make a lot of sense to me, but I guess that hasn't really come up yet for a serious discussion.
Okay, thanks. Makes sense.
to be honest, like even from like a downstream perspective, I'm not sure what the change in release cycles for Kubernetes means for OpenShift. So I don't even know what we would want from downstream perspective, but
so even in the downstream, there is no releasing of the BMO, right? Or
so,
how do you
so
when
downstream, downstream we have a fork, which is got a very small number of patches applied to it, but basically you have to fork something to build an OpenShift because it has to have the vendor stuff in the repo. But so we fork it, and during the release cycle, we just do a sync from upstream every week until we hit feature freeze, and then we only do backports from that until it branches for the next version. So that's how we handle an OpenShift. So I guess, I mean, from our perspective, the ideal would be that the upstream release cycle kind of aligns with the downstream release cycle, but that's definitely not the driving factor. Like the driving factor is what makes sense for upstream. So, but I assume that the OpenShift release cycle is somewhat coupled to the Kubernetes release cycle also. I'm just not completely sure because they changed the Kubernetes release cycle like this year, wasn't it? From 4 releases a year to 3. So I don't actually know what's happening there, but like it would appear to make sense to me from upstream perspective to align with the Kubernetes release cycles. But as I say, I don't know how that affects us downstream. I don't know how it affects other people who are kind of consuming it downstream. So it might be something we need to do a bit more consultation on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. How about this Cncf V1 beta 1 migration? Look at what is doing. Is Furkan on the call, by the way?
Yep. Yeah, this work is ongoing. I think I'm not sure if we should put it in improvements or, well, we already did migration to V1 Alpha 4, right? So maybe I thought it might worth to add it here since this work, like CAPI is already migrated to V1 Beta 1 and all the providers are on their way to that point. So we also started on CapM3 side, like, and we have some traction, like people are working on generating new API type in CapM3 itself, and then uplifting the Go modules and basically migrating to the upstream V1 Beta 1. So just like to know others' opinion if it really was to add it here, or I'm fine also if I think that it's not related to this list.
I think it's reasonable to add it here. It certainly seems something that should be achievable in the next year, so
yeah, hopefully within a month or so.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other thing that you think we might missed to be included, or are we good?
I think this is looking pretty good to me.
Okay. If no questions or comments, I think we could go to the next question. Now, would you mind to scroll up a little bit?
Okay.
Same document.
Okay.
Yeah. So this second, I don't know if it's second question, but how has the project performed against its goals since the last review? We could say not applicable because it is our first annual review. But again, like I went through the history of the other projects, annual review that are doing for the first time, and I saw that they're just listing the things that just happened, like a big changes. And I thought maybe we could also include like new features that are going, for example, through some proposal process from Metal3 Docs. And I was just listing the things that happened in BMO and in CAPM3, and maybe I should include hardware classification and IPAM. So do you think it would be okay, or we should just exclude it? Because I don't see any harm of adding it here, because it is not really like very strict document apparently. So
Yeah, so I had a look at our sandbox request, and that didn't include any specific goals. So it's not like we have anything to measure against, but I think it is reasonable to maybe put down some of the major things that we did. I think not. This is a list of docs, like things that landed in docs repo, right?
correct.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know some of these haven't actually landed yet, so we should probably avoid.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like bulk set bias config, that's actually on our list of goals. So.
That's a good point. Okay, then I will double check it to make sure that those are only implemented features, not implementable.
Yeah, we haven't done much like updating of those docs to say that when they are not implemented. So
yeah.
But yeah, I would stick to ones that seem like fairly major. Like I guess adding authentication is pretty good. External introspection, nah. You know, the RAID is a pretty big one. That's probably a good one to highlight. Secure boot, that's probably a good one to highlight. I guess somebody might care about boot ISO, I don't know.
All right. I will. I hope I didn't remove those that we wanted to keep. Support for externals. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Lane. So I will just make sure that then clean it up and then just keep only the biggest ones maybe. And do the same for CAPM3.
Sorry, just a small note. I think I do agree with Zane that at some point I was going through the proposals and saw that some proposals are, the status of the proposals are not updated pretty much. For example, there were some proposals that are already implemented, but the status of them like implementable or something like that. So it may worth to recheck them if possible, then update the status so that we are sure that landed actually or not. And I think you could add remediation controller maybe. That was one of the big features. I think.
I will add it. I will add it in CAPM3. I just started it like 20 minutes ago before the call, so yep. I'll make sure.
Thanks.
All right, I think that's more or less the questions I had. You like people could still check the document, at least the other questions, for example, if you want. And then once I update this list, I will just send just notice on the Slack, and then If no objections, go with the submitting it.
All right. Anything else? Did you want to discuss more about this annual review? Otherwise, thanks a lot, Feroz, for working with this review, annual review.
No problem.
And let's move to the next item from Ricardo, the option to build ironic image from source. So please, Ricardo.
Hello, thank you. This is actually something that we saw some people asking for since we built the ironic image in Metal3. And so we decided recently to explore this option. I prepared a POC, which is currently passing the integration test in the CI. Of course, it's not final. There are still stuff that needs to be worked on, and it's just to show how that would work. It's based on the introduction of an argument in the Docker file that basically it's called install type. Of course, it's just a temporary name or can be redefined. So by default, as you can see in the PR, so by default, the install type argument should be RPM. I put this as source this time, so we can actually test and see how the image is built using source packages. And then the install type will defines like if we are going to install from RPM or source, and it's going to be used also for the list of packages. In this case, it's going to be ironic source list. And so we split the packages list into different lists. We will have one main list, which are the base RPMs that need to be installed anyway in all the images. And then we will have the ironic RPM lists, which are the packaged ironic software and related libraries and clients. And then we will have instead ironic source list, which is a list of Python packages. Now, currently, this is tied to latest version of Ironic that is released, and it uses the upper constraints upstream. So that means that it's using the very latest software that we're using in the current release cycle for OpenStack. But it can be tied to any stable release and even like a specific version. There are probably some other changes to be done in the prepare image script that can be also split into if it becomes too big, because we don't have all the preparation done in the RPM, so that needs to be done in a different way. So the main reason this is now in the work is because we definitely need a way to test the very latest changes to the ironic software. And we need like also an easier way to do that. We already have a mechanism, which is the patch image script, which takes into consideration only upstream changes. But with this option, you're actually able to test any type of version because you're going to rebuild the image with any type of source code you want. So for that to work, and of course, if we also want to keep the RPM build, which I think it's necessary at the moment anyway, we would need to have a dedicated CI job to keep both RPMs, so RPM build and source build images like working fine in shape. because of course there may be a change that could break either or one of the two. But yeah, the POC is there. Please have a look and let us know what you think, and if you see like any potential issues with that, or well, any changes that need to be done. Thank you.
This is the nice work, Ricardo. I think it could be very useful for anyone who wants to build the ironic from source and to pin to like a specific person rather than the latest one from RPM.
Thanks.
So regarding the need to have the CI job, so at the moment we don't have like any master job on the CI for ironic. We just have like the CI Chico job. So if we have like another dedicated CI job for this one, you mean like it should be something like we can have like that integration from source, something like that.
Yeah, something like since the only difference is to basically define the install type argument when you're building the image. I guess we can have an option to like something like test the source integration or something like that, and then it will, when it builds the image, it will build it using the install type source. That's the only difference, and then it will trigger the build with the source.
Okay. From my side, I have no objection to have like another CI job for install type source. And I think to add the job, we need to open a pull request on the Garage Nordics. But I'm not sure if like everyone in the community have the permission to do that. Maybe Ferut or Fukat, maybe you know. Bro.
Sorry, could you repeat the question now?
The question, yeah, sure. The question is like, does anyone in the community can open a pull request on Garage Nordics? Maybe so they can like open a pull request to add a new CI job if they want. If they need.
Yeah, it is like public Git. It is not private, so everyone should be able to submit a PR.
So yes, Ricardo, if you
okay,
yeah,
thanks. Yes, yeah. Basically, I will need, of course, some help to define the CI job. I have like no idea how to do that in terms of like what's the procedure. So if anyone, if we can talk on Slack, for example, and like guide me to the procedure that's necessary to do that, I would be happy.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you can send a message on the Slack or to me or to Feroz. Yeah, we can help you to set up the CI job.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any other thing to discuss regarding this ironic build from source option?
Yeah, I had a question. Ricardo, so are you also keeping this specifying specific patch ref specs with patch list, or are you dropping that that way of building the ironic image?
So right now I'm not going to remove anything. I don't want to change drastically what's done. So we're going to keep the patch script, and we're going to keep the same procedure that we have to build that normal image based on RPMs. And in the future, of course, we will evaluate what to do with that. It really depends on if, like, which way is the preferred way, basically, to build the image in the future. There are, of course, so having the image built with source code directly is convenient because it's kind of like easier to verify and test the new code. It's way faster than waiting for the RPMs. But on the other hand, you don't have the same, like you need to have more, to apply more control on your container. You don't have like the pipeline that Ardio has to verify the software. We will not have their CI to do some preliminary tests. So of course, it's something that we need to evaluate. That's why we're keeping both.
Okay, that's good to know, because the reason I was asking is we have the CI actually that is using, like, really relying on that script, and it's
Right.
actually building like, if, for example, if you pass, there is a way to pass your specific ref spec, and it takes that in and then builds the ironic, then runs the Metal3 event based on that ironic image that is built from the specific ref spec.
Yep.
So if in the future you are going to just remove
Well,
this, please.
No, of course,
Yeah.
if, like, before any change, of course, we're going to discuss that. And
Yeah.
In case, I mean, we can always keep the script and even modify it to allow the change also for source code based images. I think you don't need, like, probably you don't need any change at all, because it's just going to patch the same the code that is already present. So I'm pretty sure you can reuse the same script to patch the image.
Yeah.
But anyway, if there is any change in the future, we will discuss it beforehand.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Sure. Any other questions? Feel free to ask now or contact me on Slack. And thanks again.
Okay, I guess we can move to the last item from Jen, the walkthrough of the pre-provisioned image PR.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, so just a little announcement. After this meeting, I'm going to host a walkthrough of this PR where we'll just go through all the commits, and anyone who's interested in reviewing it, because it's kind of a monster, is welcome to join that. And I think if we can, we'll just try to reuse this meeting and just carry on. I have to double check whether I can actually screen share in Zoom. And someone else might have to join as the host. I'm not sure, but so yeah. Basically, if you're interested in that, stay on the line after we end this meeting.
Yeah, I'm okay with the. I mean, even if you want to reuse this meeting season, it's fine for me.
Cool. Thanks, Tom.
So do we have anything else? Otherwise, yeah, maybe then you can take this season or like open another. I mean, it depend on you.
Okay. Well, let's end the recording here, and then anyone who wants to stay on this for the code walkthrough can just stay on.
Okay, so I will stop sharing and stop the meeting recording. Do you need the recording, Ricardo?
No, I think we can just like complete the call and then just
Okay.
whoever is interested can stay, and so you can finish the recording as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So the community meeting today. We can conclude it. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. And anyone who wants to stay with the Jane walkthrough can stay.
I have to drop. I have like another meeting in 15 minutes and it will last for like 2 hours. So, but thanks everyone. See you on Slack.
Sure.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Stop.
Hey Zane, are you going to start straight away or give it a couple of minutes?
I think the recording is still continuing now. Okay, can you
Okay.
check that?
Sorry. Yeah.
No problem.